Chapter 14. Though, as I have said, the Bulwer-Lytton discourage all speculations on the nature of the Supreme Being, they appear to concur in a belief by which they think to solve the great problem of the existence of evil, which has so perplexed the philosophy of the upper world. They hold that wherever he has once given life, with the perceptions of that life, however faint it may be, as in a plant, the life is never destroyed. It passes into new and improved forms, though not in this planet, differing therein from the ordinary doctrine of metempsychosis, and that the living thing retains the sense of identity, so that it connects its past life with its future, and is conscious of its progressive improvement in the scale of joy. For they say that, without this assumption, they cannot, according to the lights of human reason vouchsafed to them, discover the perfect justice, which must be a constituent quality of the all-wise and the all-good. Injustice, they say, can only emanate from three causes: want of wisdom to perceive what is just, want of benevolence to desire, want of power to fulfill it. And that each of these three wants is incompatible in the all-wise, the all-good, the all-powerful. But that, while even in this life, the wisdom, the benevolence, and the power of the Supreme Being are sufficiently apparent to compel our recognition, the justice necessarily resulting from these attributes absolutely requires another life, not for man only, but for every living thing of the inferior orders. That, alike in the animal and the vegetable world, we see one individual rendered, by circumstances beyond its control, exceedingly wretched compared to its neighbors. One can only exist as the prey of another. Even a plant suffers from disease till it perishes prematurely, while the plant next to it rejoices in its vitality and lives out its happy life free from a pang. That it is an erroneous analogy from human infirmities to reply by saying that the Supreme Being only acts by general laws, thereby making his own secondary causes so potent as to mar the essential kindness of the first cause, and a still meaner and more ignorant conception of the all-good, to dismiss with a brief contempt all consideration of justice for the myriad forms into which he has infused life, and assume that justice is only due to the single product of the arm. There is no small and no great in the eyes of the divine life-giver. But once grant that nothing, however humble, which feels that it lives and suffers, can perish through a series of ages, that all its suffering here, if continuous from the moment of its birth to that of its transfer to another form of being, would be more brief compared with eternity than the cry of the newborn is compared to the whole life of a man. And once suppose that his living thing retains its sense of identity, when so transformed, for without that sense it could be aware of no future being, and though, indeed, the fulfillment of divine justice is removed from the scope of our ken, yet we have a right to assume it to be uniform and universal, and not varying and partial, as it would be if acting only upon general and secondary laws, because such perfect justice flows of necessity from perfectness of knowledge to conceive, perfectness of love to will, and perfectness of power to complete it. However fantastic this belief of the Bulwer-Lytton may be, it tends, perhaps, to confirm politically the systems of government which, admitting different degrees of wealth, yet establishes perfect equality in rank, exquisite mildness in all relations and intercourse, and tenderness to all things created which the good of the community does not require them to destroy. And though their notion of compensation to a tortured insect or a cankered flower may seem to some of us a very wild crotchet, yet, at least, it is not a mischievous one, and it may furnish matter for no unpleasing reflection to think that within the abysses of earth, never lit by a ray from the material heavens, there should have penetrated so luminous a conviction of the ineffable goodness of the Creator, so fixed an idea that the general laws by which he acts cannot admit of any partial injustice or evil, and therefore cannot be comprehended without reference to their action over all spaces and throughout all time. And since, as I shall have occasion to observe later, the intellectual conditions and social systems of the subterranean race comprise and harmonize great and apparently antagonistic varieties in philosophical doctrine and speculation, which have from time to time been started, discussed, dismissed, and have reappeared amongst thinkers or dreamers in the upper world, so I may perhaps appropriately conclude this reference to the belief of the Vrilya that self-conscious or sentient life once given is indestructible among inferior creatures as well as in man, by an eloquent passage from the work of that eminent zoologist, Louis Agassiz, which I have only just met with, many years after I had committed to paper these recollections of the life of the Vrilya, which I now reduce into something like arrangement and form. The relations which individual animals bear to one another are of such a character that they ought long ago to have been considered as sufficient proof that no organized being could ever have been called into existence by other agency than by the direct intervention of a reflective mind. This argues strongly in favor of the existence in every animal of an immaterial principle similar to that which by its excellence and superior endowments places man so much above the animals. Yet the principle unquestionably exists, and whether it be called sense, reason, or instinct, it presents in the whole range of organized beings a series of phenomena closely linked together, and upon it are based not only the higher manifestations of the mind, but the very permanence of the specific differences which characterize every organism. Most of the arguments in favor of the immortality of man apply equally to the permanency of this principle in other living beings. May I not add that a future life in which man would be deprived of that great source of enjoyment and intellectual and moral improvement which results from the contemplation of the harmonies of an organic world would involve a lamentable loss? And may we not look to a spiritual concert of the combined worlds and all their inhabitants in the presence of their Creator as the highest conception of paradise? Essay on Classification, Section 17, pages 97 to 99.